It's 2023. Good day, good vibes, starting things off new and fresh. And I was kind of going through some of my comments on YouTube and realized, man, I am super backed up. So this video is centered around just engaging with you guys, answering some of your comments directly, and hopefully, because it's my third time, I'll get it right. But first question, this comes from a video called Growing a Video Production Company in 2022 that I recently did. And this question comes from Chuck. What's up, Chuck? Always appreciate the comments. And it says, as usual, another great video here. Appreciate that. Trey, can you tell us what you think about working with red footage compared to the Lumix footage, like quality and capabilities? If one is better, the hows and whys. You never hear too much about these things out there, so just wondering if you could give us your thoughts on it. Thank you. All right, so because this is my third try at this, in a nutshell, red footage is awesome. I got an opportunity to work with the Bush Record guys recently in Jay Peak, Vermont, where they were doing some interviews and shooting B-roll, all on some red Komodo 6Ks with Desiofilm lenses. They were shooting ProRes files, and they were shooting it all in log. And in a nutshell, I got an opportunity to get my hands on the footage after the project was actually completed, because I was there to shoot behind the scenes. I was shooting some vertical video, traditional video formats, and also doing photography. Now, all that to be said, when I was actually able to use the red footage, brought it into Final Cut, all ProRes files, workflow, pretty easy, didn't seem to bog down my computer that much. Now, I will say I was only doing a little 1-minute smash cut, so that could have something to do with it. But the footage looked great, and what I found as far as like color grading goes, flexibility, dynamic range, pretty damn awesome on that red. And then as far as when you export it out, there is definitely a quality that the Lumix can achieve, but I think the red obviously beats it in side by side. Now, here's the thing that gets interesting with these kind of setups. My business model, I'm not really doing commercial stuff like these guys are doing. Now, what I love to, absolutely, and one day I think that is the goal, but what I find is once these projects are shot on these cameras and it's put on social media and things of that nature, if I were to go to like my wife or someone that doesn't professionally do this for a living and I showed them the two end results, they probably would know no difference, and there could even be a chance maybe for some weird reason they went with the Lumix over the red. Now, a professional watches it, you or I, we watch it on a nice monitor, our displays at home have the kind of final res file. You guys are definitely going to be able to know which was the red and which wasn't. Other than that, look, I'm biased. A lot of my shoots, and similar to what I was hired to film with those guys, I'm going to be doing photography and videography. We're going to be doing vertical. I'm going to need to be quick, nimble, and I'm going to need to be out of their way. So what I just find is red is that one step up that I would hopefully one day like to make, but it just currently is not in my workflow. And I think for a lot of people on this channel, our prosumer level cameras really are going to get us where we need in the current next few years. A red is something I think, unless your clients are really asking for it or you're getting directly hired for having a cam like the red and you're a red operator, you're probably just fine with your Sony or your Lumix, your GH5, your S5, whatever it may be. So great question, Chuck, and as always, appreciate you interacting with the channel. So moving on to our next question. This comes from This Saved Me Hundreds video that I did a few months back in regards to the Lumix S5, and I actually use a Sigma MC21 adapter so that I can use all of my Canon glass. Now this question comes from, I can't actually pronounce the name, but it was 3 weeks ago, and it says the 24-105 are awesome lenses, but aren't they dark in or with the f4? So referring to the aperture only being able to go down to an f4 on a lot of my Canon glass, whether it be the 7200 or the 24-105. Here's my response to that. I would love to have the ability to go to an f2.8. Obviously, many of us know that if you're going to go down to that f2.8, a price tag comes with that. And I was already bought into these lenses before I actually got my S5. Now, all that to be said, my S5 performs really good in dark. A lot of it being able to go to that ISO 4000, which is native. I get a lot less grain when shooting at 4000 or at 640. And so I don't find it to be dark. I think it's just more of a look. Like if I wanted a little bit more depth of field, it'd be nice to have the f2.8. But in reality, I don't find it to be very dark. And so if you're an S5 shooter, you're shooting that full frame, I don't think dark is going to be your concern. I think it's just going to be a look. But a lot of things I actually film, I shoot at a high f-stop or a high aperture, mainly because I'm trying to get a lot in focus. So hopefully that answers your question, but great comment. Coming in from Carrie Karu. Man, guys, I'm not good with names, so I'm trying my best, but great review. This has to do with the 6 month owning the Lumix S5, and it said, I had a question before I made my decision, though that's more general. As a photographer starting to get into video, would you recommend this to take on family trips, etc., for capturing home videos with small kids moving around and pulling focus manually? So, fantastic question, and I actually take my Lumix S5 on the vast majority of my family trips. I shoot behind the scenes footage with it, and a lot of times I actually just take the native 20 to 60, and I do use the autofocus, and sometimes shots are blown, sometimes they aren't. I find it to work pretty well. I love having the 20 to 60 because of how wide it can go. Of course, as you go pull focus or zoom in a lot more, you're going to go down to that f5.6 once you get to 60 millimeters. But to answer your question directly, for photography, this lens has been great. If you want to treat yourself to an 85 or a 50 or the 35 native, that's going to be great. Even if I take my 24 to 105 with the adapter and I kind of lose the ability of autofocus as far as video goes, not photography, I like traveling with this camera, especially when it's kind of completely broken down. You don't have to worry about overheating. You've got the flip screen. You can do time lapse. You can do slow motion, 4K. You can do 1080. Look, a lot of people, the only reason they would quote unquote not take it is because they say the autofocus isn't good enough. But if you have your native piece of glass, I find it's pretty doable, especially for those that have been kind of Lumix shooters. AF is not what we're always relying on, but great question. And I think this is, if you're even going to be pulling focus manually, having the full frame and everything like that, it's a fun camera to take with you on the road. Next question comes from Dennis Kojo. This is from 20 useful videography items in 2022, a video I did a few months back. Hey, I'm wondering, where did you get that hat from? I am not even 10 seconds into the video, but I think I liking it already, haha. All right, so one awesome question. This is a particular hat from the Push Record guys. This company that I've been working with, I'm a content producer for. And if you're looking to get one of these hats, go on Instagram, Push Record, message the guys. You can go on their YouTube page, subscribe, directly message Marshall or Mark and see if they could send you out a hat or figure out a way to get you one. But I absolutely love that question just because it was fun, someone recognizing it. And yeah, this is what we wear when we're shooting with Push Rec. All right, moving into camera backpack under $100, Robert II. Hey Trey, thanks for the review. I've been shooting photography as a hobby for quite some time, and for over 10 years I've toted around a laptop bag and a camera bag. But I'm looking to shoot more, and I'm looking to get more serious about driving some side income with it. And so I begin to wonder where if the laptop camera bag combos. After a quick Google YouTube search, looking to be able to pack full frame. Okay, so this, Robert, great question. And I actually, in the second recording, gave a full answer to this, so I'll sum it up as fast as I can here. This backpack is great and can definitely fit one camera with lens on it. A separate lens, usually I have like my 24 to 105 with the adapter in there. And then I usually have the 50 millimeter in there as well. And then I usually have like some hard drive, some batteries. And I say all of this to say, and even some audio gear, is that I'm able to fit quite a bit in here. But you started to list off the laptop, the iPad. That shouldn't be a problem. Laptop will fit, no problem. iPad will go in the top pocket. Really where it's going to get tough is the stainless steel water bottle is not going to be an issue, but you mentioned your drone from time to time. I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue because this bag is not big enough probably to add that drone. You'd have to give up either a lens or some of your batteries or maybe your audio gear. I have had a couple of my buddies have the Peter McKinnon bag. I think you're going to probably, with all the gear you listed off, want something a little bit bigger. A lot of times when you guys see me in these videos, I use this as like a quick carry bag, and I use it on my travel shoots. But usually I'm also complementing it with my newer wheelie bag, and that is a beast for all my gear. which maybe the newer wheelie bag might be up for you. It's a actual suitcase, but also can go backpack. It's not the most comfortable when it's in its backpack form, but it's nice to just have that just in case it's raining or something like that. I can throw it on there. But to answer your question directly, I think you might be wanting to look at just a little bit bigger bag. I love this bag personally. I like the look. I like everything it brings to the table, and it's under $100. But for you personally, you might need something a little bit bigger. All right, so we roll into the next question. This is on the Lumix S5 2022 video production setup, kind of where I narrated and showed you guys my exact kind of like video production rig, and I showed it with the 70-200. And this question comes from Sojo Films. Any reason you chose the Tilta over the small rig cage? Well, I have the Tilta right here, and to sum it up, I have a small rig cage on my Lumix GH5 that I'm actually currently filming with, and I just went with the Tilta just because a buddy of mine had a Tilta for his Red, and he was just kind of ranting and raving that he really liked Tilta cages, and this one I think was maybe like $40 or $50 more, but really it was just like going for a different look. Didn't want to go with another small rig, not because I wasn't happy with small rig, but really just because I wanted to switch it up. But I think many of you guys out there, small rig's going to be just as good. I think the other reason why I wanted this one, and I don't know if small rig has it with theirs, is this does have the ability to put like the handle over here and have a little bit of a different mount. Different color, had the red on there, kind of just caught my eye. So not the best answer to your question, but it was more of just a kind of impulse buy over the small rig. Next question comes from GH5 in 2022, reasons why I say yes. This comes from Harlanwood Studio. As a Panasonic camera user, I appreciate your presentation very much. Thank you. And the question is, how would you compare the GH5S to the S5? I can answer that. I've had a couple of opportunities this year to shoot with the GH5S, particularly for events. A buddy of mine owns one as well. Side by side, GH5S is great, but the problem is that price-wise, they're pretty close in price. The HDMI, I think, is going to be, the HDMI import is really probably going to be what separates a lot of people and like why they would want the GH5S. GH5S doesn't have IBIS included. Look, I think the GH5S, the image was fantastic, and it was actually pretty darn good in low light. And so if you're a Micro Four Thirds shooter and you're locked into a lot of native glass, I could see where having that GH5S might be what you need. But just if you're going to future-proof yourself for a few more years, and you really want to just kind of get full frame, you want some photography that's going to be good, you want IBIS, I think the S5 is the right choice. Really, the biggest knock is just going to be the HDMI port. So I know that's not like a thorough, long-winded thing, but like both are going to get great results. So if you could pick up a GH5S super cheap, I'd go that route. Or if you're trying to match it to a GH5, but the S5, I mean, it's a step up. All right, this question comes from my Lumix S5 setup for video production. This was 2022. Another video where I kind of broke it down with the 24-105. This comes from Martin Matty. Hi, what about latency between external monitors? Somebody says that S5 has a big latency on external monitors, so it's unusable for filming, sports, etc. Can you confirm? All right, so I personally, and I phrase this, I personally have never had any issues with latency. The only thing I will say is occasionally, sometimes the monitor might flick, but that's very rare, and I've been using an old iCam monitor that was absolutely ancient, and I also use the Shinobi monitor. In a nutshell, maybe that person either has a defective HDMI cord, or, look, I mean, I filmed some things that are kind of, I guess, could be considered like high pace. I don't do sports, so maybe it could just be the filming like sports stuff. But overall, man, I think that's going to be a personal issue with someone. So I know that's not the best answer, but I've been shooting now with the S5, the GH5, the GH4 for several years, and I've never had any latency issues. And this comes from Fortress of Sound. As one without any Canon lenses, would it make sense to go this route from the start? It would seem a Canon 24-105 plus adapter would be sub 500, whereas the Lumix 24-105 is 800 to 1,000 used. I love these kind of questions because, look, I come with some bias here because I already owned Canon glass, but I've kind of like come up with this. This is kind of how I look at it. I have EF mount glass. I like the way it looks. I also like that it's a lot cheaper than going the Lumix route and getting native glass. I do have my one native piece, which is used really just for like my vlogging, my YouTube stuff, and I have been using it more and more for like some tracking shots and things of that nature. If I had the money, I'd probably try to have like a kit lens plus maybe like either a 50, a 35, or 85, and I would be fine. That would be it I'd have for native glass, and the rest would all be EF mount with adapters. And the reason being is that if I get native L glass, and a lot of people don't shoot Lumix, if I ever need to get rid of this glass and stuff, it might be really hard. Also, it comes with a hefty price tag to get the really nice glass. So the stuff like the 24 to 105, I think they have, or they have like a 20 to 70 f2.8 or something like that. My whole point being is, I just think that that EF mount glass you're going to be able to take with you, whether this is the camera you use for the next year or two, and then maybe you want to shoot on a red. You're not going to be able to take any of that L mount glass and put it on that red. I'm sure eventually there might be an adapter, but you're easily going to be able to take that EF mount glass and put it on that red. So it's really one of those situations where EF mount has been more of like kind of my comfort zone. I like the price tags. So my bias would say you should go with the Canons, unless you are doing photography or you 100% need autofocus and that's something you're relying on. Then I think the investment into some native would be good for you. And look, hopefully you start making the kind of money doing this, whether full-time or for a hobby, that you could even treat yourself to having a little bit of EF glass, get it on the cheap, and then treat yourself to 1 or 2 pieces of native glass. And then I think you have it all covered. It's a great question, Fortress of Sound. So while I know that's not one of my normal videos discussing directly the S5 or the GH5 or doing any kind of tutorial, but this was one of those videos where I just wanted to say thank you guys for all that are commenting. For those that I didn't answer your question, I'll do my best to in the comment section, but I thought it'd be fun to directly answer some of y'all's questions, because I think a lot of times if I'm just typing it up, I can't give you a full response. And then also I think it's kind of fun sometimes to hear other people's questions being answered, because it might kind of clear up some things that you were wondering, or sometimes there might be questions that we might be embarrassed to ask because they might be very simple, or they might be extremely difficult, or maybe you just personally have never had any experience with something. But I like this, and if you guys do too, drop a comment in the comment section below. As always, guys, it's Trey Lowell with Lowell Productions, and if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like the videos we keep creating on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.